And for more insight, let's speak now with Joseph Camilleri. He's Emeritus Professor of Politics at Trobe University. Thanks very much for your time today, Professor. You know, the U.S., its allies, they warned the militant group that there would be consequences. And now we're seeing what those consequences are. First off, can you tell us about the significance of the timing of these strikes? Why now?
Well, I think it is a rather unfortunate development, I must say. And it's because I think the United States has got itself into a terrible pickle over the whole Gaza tragedy. It has locked itself into very strong support for the state of Israel at the very time that South Africa has taken Israel to the International Court of Justice. That's the background, the backdrop. There has been increasing opposition to the actions of Israel, and that has weakened America's position, and therefore the United States is looking for ways to get out of this difficult situation, but it's trying to act in a way which prevents escalation, but it is itself contributing to escalation. So it's caught in a terrible vice. And I must say, much of the trouble is of its own making. And because, yes, there has been a reaction to Houthis' actions in the Red Sea, which were perhaps unfortunate, but responding by unilateral action without reference to the United Nations is not a very good example to follow.
At this point, Professor, reports indicate that radar systems, drone and missile sites were targeted by the U.S. and its allies. How much is this move really going to hinder Houthi activity in the Red Sea? Is this going to cripple their capabilities at all?
I don't think what's been done so far, it's been described as a blow to their capacity, but a blow doesn't mean incapacitating. So I would expect there will be further attacks in the Red Sea. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going to go. In other words, there's going to be tit-for-tat. And if the facilities are degraded, if certain storage of weapons have been destroyed or damaged, then I would expect the backers of the Houthis to come in and try and replenish those facilities, perhaps repair them. So it's not going to be a solution. In other words, yes, the United States and primarily its Anglo allies. This is basically a reaction of the Anglosphere, primarily the US and UK, with a tiny bit of support from Australia and Canada, and the others are there for cosmetic purposes. This Anglo response, led by the United States, is meant to be a retaliation against the Houthis. The Houthis will then continue to retaliate, and instead of having a de-escalation of the Gaza conflict, we're going to see possibly a significant escalation over the next several months. And it's interesting that a number of Democrats in the US Congress have taken great exception to President Biden's decision because he appears to have deflected the accepted view that before committing forces in an international arena, an American president is supposed to consult with Congress, and that has not happened.
Since the Israel-Gaza war broke out, there's all this talk around fears of the conflict widening. Washington initially said it wanted to avoid direct strikes on Yemen over fears of escalating tensions in an already fragile region. So, Professor, how likely will this strike galvanize other actors in the region to get involved now?
Well, I think the primary, the United States has been heavily involved all the way through. It has been a prime backer of Israel, not just in words, but in military and economic support. and projection of power on a large scale in the Red Sea. On the other side, we've had the Hamas resistance supported by Hezbollah in various ways and supported by the Houthis. And behind them lie other major powers, regional powers, including most obviously Iran. So none of that is going to go away. And I'm afraid that the actions we've just seen by the United States will lead to further responses in ways that we can't altogether foresee. But at the moment, we are looking at further escalation rather than de-escalation, unless there is some very substantial UN intervention, which does not look very likely because of the power of the veto by one or other of the great powers.
More broadly, how much confidence would you say these strikes restore in those who use these critical shipping routes? Or would you say the U.S. strike is even more reason to avoid the waterway at this point?
I would have thought so, because this has become an area of conflict, and which commercial operations we would wish to venture into those now rather dangerous waters in what is an increasingly unpredictable situation. So unfortunately, the stated objective of preserving the capacity of commercial shipping to operate in those waters may well itself be seriously endangered.
All right. Really appreciate your insights today, Professor. That is Joseph Camilleri, Emeritus Professor of Politics at La Trobe University.